What up YouTube, it's Heretic here, and today we are starting another new segment, and that is deck building for dummies. So you may notice we're on the title screen of Pokemon Trading Card Game Online here, but we're going to go ahead and get into just basic deck building, different archetypes, and we're just going to kind of look at stuff that's been successful and how we might craft just a basic generic version of this list, considering our available options. So we're going to start, the first couple weeks of states have been pretty heavily dominated by Night March decks. So we're going to start with a generic, straightforward Night March list, and we're just going to try to see how we can get our numbers going for that, and look over the advantages of maybe having a basic Night March list compared to one that has a few more tech cards in it. So we're going to go ahead and build a new deck. So we're going to go to our deck manager here and create a new deck. Let's see, right now we're in standard format, so we're going to go with standard. And so our basic Night March Pokemon, we can just go ahead and search for them. We have Joltik, and then we have Pumpkaboo. Let's see, make sure we get the right one. And then we have Lampent as well as our last one. So let's see, there he is. Okay. So these are our three basic Night March Pokemon, and the attack does 20 damage times the number of Pokemon in your discard pile that have the Night March attack. I'm sure you guys already know that by now, but just in case for those who don't, this is especially for newer players. The energy costs, you may notice, are a little bit different, but the damage output is the same on all three of these. Joltik, only 30 HP, so definitely something to be wary of, that it has less hit points, but he uses Night March for just 2 colorless. Pumpkaboo uses Night March for 3 colorless, has 60 HP, and Lampent for 1 psychic and 2 colorless. Now Lampent is also a stage 1 Pokemon, so we would have to use a Litwick to get him into play normally. So if we go ahead and look up Litwick here, and it looks like we've got some Litwicks available. So let's go ahead and factor that for now, and we may come back to that here in a little bit. But for right now, it looks like those are our attackers. So we're using double colorless and psychic energy primarily. So let's go ahead and find our energy. You may notice I'm only adding 1 of each card right now, and that is mainly because we can go ahead and fill that in here as we get going. But there we go. So we've got all of those, and we may want some support Pokemon to go along, but for right now this is going to be our core, so this is what we're going to start with. And so we've got a whole bevy of trainer cards to choose from, and trainer cards comprise the majority of pretty much every deck in the Pokemon trading card game, almost. Item cards usually comprise about, I would say, anywhere between 1/3 to, in some extreme cases, maybe close to half of a deck. Usually around 1/3 though, somewhere around 20 item cards is what you see in most decks. Turbo engines are always a little bit higher than that, but that's usually about how many we see. Supporter cards can run anywhere from 7 or 8 supporters per deck, all the way up to about 14 or 15 depending on what deck you're playing. And then decks that play stadium cards run anywhere between 2 copies and 4 copies typically, depending on the stadium, the importance of it, to their strategy, and some decks that run multiple different stadium cards. So as we're just kind of looking here, we're going to find some cards that might help us fuel our discard pile with Night Marchers. So we're going to look around here, and we notice an item card here, Acrobike. This lets us look at the top 2 cards of our deck, put one of them into our hand, and discards the other one. So that's an option. So we can go ahead and add one of those for now. And the big one here, this is one you definitely want to look at, Battle Compressor. Search your deck for up to 3 cards and simply discard them. So we can search our deck for up to 3 Pokemon with Night March, discard them, and then our attacks will be that much stronger. So we can go ahead and do that. And we're going to continue looking through here and just try to find stuff that might be helpful to our strategy. We've got, let's see, we're just going to go ahead and do our item cards right now. So let's just keep looking here. Let's see what we got. Here's a card, Floatstone. This drops the retreat cost of whatever it's attached to 0. And this could be helpful just in case we have a Pokemon active and maybe we want to use something different. Maybe we got a Pumpkaboo and our opponent's active Pokemon is weak to lightning, so we want to use Joltik. In any case, just kind of being able to switch Pokemon is pretty nice, so Floatstone's pretty good for that. So we can go ahead and include one of those. And then, let's see here, what else do we have? Alrighty, come on. Let's see, more items. I think most of the ones we want, okay. So here's one here, Level Ball. This lets us search our deck for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less, reveal it, and put it directly into our hand. And since our Night Marchers do have lower HP, so we can go ahead and try that out. And let's see here, what else do we have? Okay, Muscle Band. The Pokemon that this card is attached to, their attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, so a pretty solid card there. And again, you know, just Muscle Band, just adding extra damage, being a little damage buffer there is kind of nice. Definitely a good card to have. Okay, so let's see here. I'll try to find some more stuff here. We've got Puzzle of Time. This is a pretty powerful card that has actually come out recently and seen play in a lot of decks, and it's easy to understand why. You can play 2 Puzzle of Time cards at once. If you play only one, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. Not too bad. If you play 2 at once, you get to put any 2 cards from your discard pile immediately back into your hand. So that's a pretty powerful combo, and we're going to want at least 2 of these. So let's go ahead and we're going to actually put a couple copies in there for now. And let's see here. What else do we got? Try to go through this here, not take too much time. Startling Megaphone here. Discard all Pokemon tool cards attached to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So this can kind of, you know, if your opponent's got like a Muscle Band or a Floatstone, you can use this to get rid of it. Kind of reduce some of their damage output, keep them from retreating freely. It's always nice to have. Switch basically functions the same as Floatstone. You switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Pretty solid card there. Kind of an alternative method to Floatstone. Let's see here. We've got... What else do we have? We've got Trainer's Mail here. So this lets you look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal any trainer card you find there except for another Trainer's Mail and put it directly into your hand. And then the other 3 cards get shuffled back into the deck. So this can help speed you to cards that you may be looking for. In addition, similar to Acrobike, limited to trainers, but it also lets you look at 4 cards instead of 2. So we can go ahead and add a Trainer's Mail to the deck. That seems like a pretty good card to have. Ultra Ball lets you... Oh, we already added it. Okay. Lets you discard 2 cards from your hand, and you could also discard Night March Pokemon or other cards that you simply don't need at the time. And then you search your deck for any Pokemon, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So if we do decide to add something that has more than 90 HP, this will be valuable, as Level Ball would not be able to search it then. So we're going to go ahead and add Ultra Ball for now. And then we've got VS Seeker here. So VS Seeker lets you put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. And you may notice some synergy here because Battle Compressor lets us discard any 3 cards from our deck. So we could use Battle Compressor to simply discard a supporter card and then retrieve it with VS Seeker, which is pretty darn good right now. So we're going to go ahead and add VS Seeker as well. Now we're going to filter this down to our supporter cards next. So that's going to be it for our items. So we've got our supporters here, and so let's see what we got here. Zero Sick. Let's see here. Teammates. Okay, so you can only play this card when one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. However, in exchange for having limited times when you can play it, Teammates allows you to search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into your hand, which is very powerful. Our Night March Pokemon do not have a lot of HP, which means they're going to get knocked out frequently, and we will be able to play this card more often than we would in some other decks. And with VS Seeker, we can simply retrieve it every time, meaning we really don't even need to play multiple copies of it. So, pretty solid card we've got going for us there. So we're going to go ahead and go through Professor Sycamore, always a favorite. discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Sometimes it stinks having to discard your whole hand, but being able to draw a fresh hand of 7 is just way too powerful to pass up right now. So we're going to go ahead and add Professor Sycamore. And let's see what else we find here. A Lysander. Lysander is a very powerful card as well. Switch your opponent's one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with his or her active, and then we can simply attack whatever we bring up, maybe even get a knockout. So Lysander, again, a pretty powerful supporter card. Next one I think we're going to go look at is Judge. This forces both players to shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 4 cards. So keep in mind, we may not keep all of these cards in our deck in the end, but these are definitely just options we have. Hex-Maniac. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, every Pokemon in play in each player's hand and in each player's discard pile loses their abilities. And since Night March Pokemon do not have any abilities, it's just more things that we can feed off of. So maybe an opponent's Pokemon's ability that might be hindering us, we can take that off the board until the end of our opponent's next turn, which is very, very good. So going through so many cards, really just tough to look at some of these things when we're going through so many at once, but that is pretty much what we're going to start at now, and that leaves us at 23 cards. We're going to go ahead and look at stadiums here real quick now. And so stadium cards, and there's one stadium card here in particular that we want to look at, and that's Dimension Valley, because if you remember, Pumpkaboo is a psychic type Pokemon, and his attack costs 3 colorless energy, while Joltix costs only 2, and that is going to be a big deal here, because Dimension Valley will reduce our Psychic Pokemon's attacks by 1 colorless energy, meaning that we only need to pay 2 colorless to use Dimension Valley, to use Pumpkaboo's attack, much the same as we do with Joltik. So we can go ahead and add Dimension Valley to allow us to attack with Pumpkaboo for the same cost as Joltik, and with Pumpkaboo having more HP, that is very, very useful, as it is less likely to get knocked out due to higher hit points. And then finally, we've got our energy here. Looks like, and we already went into these real quick. Double colorless energy, you know, that 2 energy cost for Joltik, and with Dimension Valley for Pumpkaboo, we can just simply go right ahead and attack with a double colorless energy, and then our basic psychic energy, because Lampent's attack requires a psychic energy. With the Dimension Valley, we only need a psychic and a colorless. And also just because, you know, having more than 4 energy cards sometimes might seem like a good option to have. So that's our basic skeleton right now, and we're going to start beefing these lines up here. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is we're going to want 4 copies of all of our Night March Pokemon. So we're going to go ahead and beef these numbers up. And so we're going to make sure we can get all these things in play here. So we got 4 copies of each of those Pokemon. Now that's going to bring us up to 36. Next thing is we're probably going to want more energy than just 2 energy cards. And our double colorless energies are kind of the heart and soul of this, so we're going to beef that number up. Basic energies are also unique because you can run as many copies of a basic energy card in your deck as you like, as opposed to the 4 card limit on every other type of card in the game. For now, we're going to go ahead and bring this up to about 6 psychic energies, and of course we could definitely run more than that. I mean, you can run as many as you want, but for now that's what we're going to leave it at. And we're going to go through our item cards now and our trainers and try to beef these numbers up a little bit as well. And by increasing the number of a certain card that you play, you also increase how often how likely you are to see that card at a given moment, which in turn increases consistency. So a deck that runs a lot of cards that are run in 4s or even in 3s, a lot of consistency as opposed to running a lot of cards which you only run 1 copy of, especially if we do not have a way to search that 1 card. You also run the risk of a single card ending up in your prize cards during a game, and if you only run 1 copy of that card and it does end up in the prizes, then you will have to draw it out of the prize cards in order to access it for that game. So we're going to go ahead and raise some of our numbers here. We've got Acrobike, so we're just going to try to bring some numbers up. Battle Compressor is a very important card to the Night March engine, discarding 3 cards out of our deck. And with all these Night March Pokemon, we've got 12 of them. Simply being able to throw some of them away is pretty darn good. So we're going to increase that number up to 4 as well. Puzzle of Time, you need to have 2 copies to use the second effect, but if we play 4 copies, we can use that effect twice. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we've got Trainer's Mail, which is another card that helps us dig further into our deck to get our attackers out more soon. And so we're going to go ahead and increase that number. And we'll do the same thing here with Ultra Ball. So just kind of bringing all these numbers up. And here we've got VS Seeker, so we can increase this number. And uh-oh, your deck now contains more than 60 cards. A deck must contain exactly 60 cards in order to be played. So our deck now has more than 60 cards in it, and we're going to have to do something about that, especially if we want to continue to add more different cards. So we're going to continue. It's going to because it will fortunately let us continue to add more cards even over 60. So what we're going to do is add the rest of this, and then eventually we're going to have to go back and remove cards from the deck. So we've got all of this here, and so our supporter cards, now if you remember, we can search these out with Battle Compressor, simply discarding them, which we have 4 copies of, and then play VS Seeker, which we also have 4 copies of, to put that supporter card we've searched and discarded directly into our hand. So we're going to go ahead and I'm only going to buffer the count here on Professor Sycamore, because this is an important card to have to draw more cards early on in the game. And if your opponent, say, plays a Judge and limits our hand to 4 cards on the first turn, then we want to be able to draw out of that. So Professor Sycamore provides an excellent option there. And of course we also want to be able to draw out with Dimension Valley. So we're going to go ahead and bring our Dimension Valley count up as well. Now we're going to go maximum consistency on all those cards here with 4 copies of each. And we are going to have to remove some cards here now. So we've got both Floatstone and Switch in here. Floatstone can be reused multiple times on the same Pokemon, so we're going to go ahead and go with that one, and we can remove the Switch. Now some other stuff we've got here. With all these Night March Pokemon, we can probably deal quite a bit of damage here, as Night March does 20 damage for every Night March Pokemon in your discard pile, so we can probably remove the Startling Megaphone. And with 4 copies of Ultra Ball, just being able to search anything we need and discard Night March Pokemon from our hand at the same time, we can probably remove Level Ball as well. So that'll open up a couple slots, and then we can lower our energy count here by a few as well. So that'll, still enough to be able to use them. And then, so we need to take one more card out. So if we go ahead and look at this here, we just need to find one more thing we can remove. And that's actually where we're going to get to our next thing, is we can actually play Night March using Battle Compressor and simply attacking with only Pumpkaboo and Joltik, eliminating Lampent from our attack necessities, as it does require that awkward Psychic Energy as well as the colorless. So if we remove Lampent as an attacker, but merely use it to Battle Compress out of our deck and into the discard pile, we can take Litwix out of our deck, and that will actually drop us down to 57 cards. And so from there, we can just kind of work things here real simple. We've got our energy lineup, and we can add something else to help us draw more cards, and that would be Shaymin-EX. Shaymin's setup ability: when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. And then it can also return to your hand for 2 colorless, returning or dealing 30 damage with its Sky Return attack. Return this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back to your hand, meaning you can effectively reuse it over and over again if you use Sky Return to attack. And so this is another very solid card to draw more cards quickly and help us get to our strategy a lot sooner. So we're going to go ahead and, looks like we're going to have to search it again. We're going to add 3 copies of Shaymin-EX to the deck. And that's going to put us at 60 cards, so we don't have room for the 4th copy, it looks like. But everything else, we've got some supporters at 1 of, some Pokemon tools. Everything else is 4 copies. And so we are going to go ahead and just play the deck right now like this. One other thing we can look at actually here is Fighting Fury Belt. And it looks like we need to turn off the filter for stadium cards here. Look at it, it's a Pokemon tool, so we can look it up this way. Fighting Fury Belt is a Pokemon tool that only works on basic Pokemon, which is all the Pokemon we'll be playing down. It like Muscle Band, it adds extra damage. It's only 10, but it also gives that Pokemon 40 additional hit points, and Night March Pokemon have very low HP. So we can go ahead and add Fighting Fury Belt, which is going to put us back up to 61, but we can simply swap it out for our 1 copy of Muscle Band, and that will drop us back down to 60, and we can go ahead and save this deck. I'll take one last look here for those of you guys who want to see it. That's what we're working with now. We can go ahead and save this. Night March. And I don't think it's really too big of a deal what sleeves or whatever we got. So we're just going to go ahead and save it like that. You already have a deck named Night March. Okay, so we're going to have to name it something else. So Night March Deck Building for Dummies. There we go. Oh, we don't want to print. That's not good. Sorry about that. Okay, and our deck contains at least one incomplete evolution chain that is Lampent. Do you still want to save it? Yes, because we do not need to be able to play Lampent down. And now we're going to go ahead and play a game or two with this and see how it works out. You know, just kind of go over the basics here. So we've got to find Night March, Deck Building for Dummies, and we can go ahead and play around. So let's see what we end up playing against here. And hopefully we don't hit too bad of a matchup. And, alrighty. So it looks like we're going to go up against the deck that runs Item Lock here. So our opponent's going to be flipping the coin here, and they're going to win the coin flip here. So our opponent is probably going to choose to go first. So it will be his turn to start, and so we're going to start. We're going to notice we have a lot of Pokemon in our hand to start off. So we're going to go ahead and start with Joltik, and then and this guy watches our channel, so that is pretty darn cool. And so we can also start with Pokemon on our bench. Since we're going second, we're going to go ahead and bench one of our Pokemon as well. We can bench a Pumpkaboo. And we're making sure not to bench Shaymin-EX because we need to bench him from our hand during our turn in order to gain Shaymin's setup ability. So we definitely want to make sure that we can that we can take advantage of that during our turn. This guy's asking if we went to States this past weekend. Not this weekend. My nieces are actually visiting, so we're going to see him play an Ultra Ball, and he's going to search an Oddish, discarding a Vespiquen and a Gloom. And he's going to play a Floatstone down onto his Oddish, giving it free retreat, and bench a Shaymin-EX, using setup to draw his hand back up from 2 cards to 6. So we're going to go ahead. He says he went to South Carolina States, and so we're going to ask him how he did. '22nd place, so not too bad. 4-2-1. Okay, so really just one game away from potentially making top cut. It's crazy how 5-1-1 can be top, or or very close to it, and yet 4-2-1. Just that bubble round is just it's hard. It's tough. So we're going to see an Acrobike here, and he's going to discard it. He also used Unknown's ability from his bench, Farewell Letter, which lets us discard he discards his Unknown, and then draw a card. So he's been to 1 League Challenge, 1 Cities, and then this. And so apparently that was only his 3rd tournament, so to go 4-2-1 at States after in his first state championship after just starting last summer, that's really good. So just being able to pick up the game and learn how to play it in such a short time, that is really awesome. And that's especially for all you guys, for the new players watching, just goes to show that if you put some effort into it and you learn the game, you can do just like this guy did, And I think that's really cool that we ran into someone like that in our game. So we're gonna see a Battle Compressor here. We notice he's evolved his Oddish into Gloom on turn 1 with the use of Forest of Giant Plants, which lets both players evolve Grass Pokemon the same first turn or the turn they're played down. He also benched a Combee. So we're gonna see a couple of Battle Compressors here. He discarded, it looks like, 2 Vileplumes and a Gloom. And Vileplume has an ability that can be very disruptive. Irritating Pollen prevents both players from playing any item cards from their hand. So he's going to discard a Combi and another Battle Compressor here. So let's see what we've got here. We're going to see a Shaymin-EX again. He's going to draw his hand from 1 card all the way back up to 6. We're going to see a Level Ball here, and he's going to get Vespiquen, so he can evolve one of his Combis now. And so all these Pokemon really just coming out on the first turn. There is another Vespiquen right there. An Unknown, again, is going to use Farewell Letter, sending itself from the bench to the discard pile in exchange to draw 1 card. And it looks like we're going to see another Unknown do the same thing here. I'm really just hoping he does not get Vespiquen, but oh no, he gets Vespiquen on turn, or I'm sorry, Vileplume on turn 1. So no item cards can be played now. So these 3 item cards in our hand are not playable. We also do have a Lampent in our hand, unfortunately, so a lot of cards that we cannot use right off the bat. And that is the power of Vileplume, one of the decks that has actually countered Night March. So we are going to draw 2 cards off Shaymin-EX and hope we can hit something here. And so we get an energy, but what we don't have is something that we can actually attack with. So what we can do is attach this Psychic Energy over here, get Pumpkaboo ready to attack, since our Night March attack would not be doing any damage right now. And he says, I know this was a bad matchup for you if I get turn 1 Vileplume. It's okay, man. That's just kind of the way the game goes sometimes. So we're going to go ahead and just pass our turn. And with Night March being so successful in the first couple of state championships, it definitely does have a big target on its back right now. So our opponent's going to retreat and use Sky Return for 30 damage and return his Shaymin to his hand. So that knocks out our Joltik, granting him 1 prize card. However, it also puts Joltik in our discard pile, which will slowly begin to make Night March deal more damage, so we can definitely try to take advantage of that. And we're actually going to promote Shaymin as our active Pokemon here, since we can use Sky Return. And we're going to draw another useless item card, so that's definitely being made difficult right now for us. But we're going to go ahead and use Sky Return, and that's going to deal 30 damage, and we're going to return that to our hand and simply bring another Joltik out. Now, he'll be able to knock that out, but that's okay because we still have Pumpkaboo on our bench, and we can also bench Shaymin again and try to get another Sky Return attack. So he can simply Sky Return another Joltik. That will increase our damage output here. And we can go ahead and see, he'll get a prize card, and then it looks like he's gonna have to promote a Pokemon here. So he promotes the Vespiquen with no damage, and then so our Pumpkaboo goes to the active, and oh no, we have got 6 dead cards in our hand, so we cannot do anything with that Shaymin. So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna put it down anyway, so that we don't lose due to having no bench Pokemon, and we can Night March here for 40 damage. But if he, we'll see if he just attaches an energy to Vespiquen, then Vespiquen's attack, Be Revenge, does 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each Pokemon in his discard pile. And he has currently got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, quite a few apparently, Pokemon in his discard. He did 11 Pokemon. He did 130 damage with Be Revenge. So we're going to draw again, and once again we have drawn a useless item card, so we are just going to go ahead and pass our turn, and that is very unfortunate the way that went for us, as Vileplume just came out on the first turn and denied us access to all of our item cards. So really with Lampent as well, 7 dead cards in our hand, and we watch all our Pokemon get knocked out, and that ends in a loss for us. But that is okay, because we are going to try this one more time here. So we're going to play one more game with this, and maybe try to, let's see, hopefully we don't end up against a item lock strategy here. We can show off how powerful this thing can be if we don't run into Vileplume. And so there's our matchup, and our opponent's going to flip the coin. Let's see if maybe we can, nope, we're going to lose the coin flip again. So our opponent's going to go first. And we're going to draw our hand, and we've got a pretty balanced hand here going. We've got a Battle Compressor, a Trainer's Mail, an Ultra Ball, we've got some supporters, we've got a Float Stone, so definitely a lot of different things we can do here. And our opponent's going to lead with a Malamar EX. So let's take a look at this guy. He attaches an energy, and that's going to actually activate Malamar's ability, attaching an energy from hand, putting our Pokemon to sleep. And then, so we're going to flip our coin, and we flip heads, so we wake up. He also benched a Drowsy. So, let's see, Focused Wish, flip a coin if heads attack us. Okay, so we'll go up to 30 damage. So we're going to play Battle Compressor, because we don't want to be hitting with Acrobike, and we don't want to be hitting the cards we want to discard off of our Acrobike and Trainer's Mail. So we're going to go ahead and, since we can't put Lampent into play, we're going to discard our three of our Lampents here first. And so that's going to power up our Night March attack right there. Next we're going to play Acrobike. And we're going to hit an Acrobike and an Ultra Ball. So we're just going to choose another Acrobike. And so we're going to go ahead and play that. And that's going to give us Hex-Maniac and Fighting Fury Belt. So we're going to take a look at our board here. Malamar's attack lets him flip a coin for each energy attached to this Pokemon and does 60 damage times the number of heads. So he also has a Muscle Band, so you're going to add 20 damage. So with one heads, he's going to deal 80 damage, which would be enough to knock us out, even with the Fighting Fury Belt we saw here. So we're going to go ahead and grab the Hex-Maniac instead. And so Fighting Fury Belt goes to the discard pile. We can play Trainer's Mail. And we can grab Dimension Valley. Apparently that's the only trainer card we hit. So we can go ahead and take that, and we've got an Ultra Ball here. So we can play that and discard Hex-Maniac and Lysander, since we can always VS Seeker for them later. And grab a Shaymin-EX, which will help us draw some more cards. And so we can even increase that number more by playing Dimension Valley, and then attaching Floatstone to Joltik, giving it free retreat, allowing Shaymin to draw us 5 cards instead of 3. So we're going to let Shaymin do that and set up, draw us 5 new cards. And then here we're going to play a Trainer's Mail. So that's going to get us a Puzzle of Time. We're only going to have 1, and we're probably going to play Professor Sycamore here in a second. So we're actually going to choose not to add that Puzzle of Time to our hand. One of the benefits of Trainer's Mail being able to fail the card, as our opponent does not see what cards are there. So we can go ahead and attach a double colorless energy to Joltik, enabling it to attack, and we're just going to play this Professor Sycamore and draw a fresh hand of 7. And that's not a very good hand. So we can do maybe something here. Can use Puzzle of Time to look at our top 3 cards, and Battle Compressor would definitely help us do a lot more damage right now. And then we can also draw Acrobike, and then our energy, probably the least desirable of those 3, since we have 2 Psychic Energies in our hand already. Then we can play Shaymin, which will only draw us 1 card, but since we were able to look at those 3 cards, we know which one we're getting. And we're also going to end up shuffling the deck after playing Battle Compressor here. So we can drop 3 more Night March Pokemon into our discard pile here. And so it looks like 1 year later. Okay, I guess just an allusion to how long our turn is taking here. But it looks like we can just go ahead and drop Pumpkaboo into our discard pile. So that's going to give us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Night March Pokemon in our discard. And we can use Night March for 120 damage onto Malamar-EX. So our opponent's going to play a red card, so that's going to set our hand back to our deck and shuffle in, draw 4. And so we're going to hit 2 double colorless energies here. We're going to see an all-night party come down and another energy onto Malamar, so we're going to fall asleep again. And Maximar is going to go, and he's going to hit 2 heads, so 140 damage. Yikes. And that's going to knock us out. So we're going to bring one of our Shaymins up. And so we're going to be able to attach a double colorless right onto Shaymin here. We're playing Ultra Ball. We can discard. Let's see, you can discard a couple of cards here. We're not going to be able to attach 2 energies here at once. So we're going to go grab a Joltik from the deck. We can go ahead and throw that down onto our bench. We can attach double colorless to Shaymin for this round and play a Professor Sycamore for 7 fresh cards. And we also draw into Teammates, so if he knocks us out, we will be able to make a counterplay here. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and use another Ultra Ball, and we can just go ahead and discard this one. And we can actually discard the Teammates for now, because we have 2 copies of VS Seeker in our hand, which is very, very useful. So we're going to grab another Joltik out of our deck and put it down on the bench so that we can send one up to the active spot when our Shaymin Sky returns, and then we can just proceed to bring Joltik up again if necessary on our next turn. So Shaymin Sky return will deal 30 damage. We'll bring a Joltik up to the active spot, which only gives up 1 prize instead of 2. And we see our opponent play Trainer's Mail, and he grabs a Professor Sycamore from the deck. So he attaches another energy. Hyper Hypnosis will put us to sleep once again, and then we will see he plays a Skyla, letting him search his deck for any trainer card. And he grabs an Ultra Ball. So with 2 other cards in his hand, he can actually Ultra Ball and grab a Shaymin-EX here and draw his hand all the way up to 6 cards. And that Malamar has got a ton of energy on it, but we may notice he has no energy anywhere else. So that is a big deciding factor here. So we see a Remoraid go down onto his bench, and a Trainer's Mail. So we see an Ultra Ball. And we'll see if he searches for maybe another Shaymin here. He discards a Level Ball and a Floatstone. Grabs a Darkrai EX from his deck. And so we'll see that go down onto his bench. And we'll see Maximar here. 1 Tails, 2 Tails, 3 Tails, and he does no damage. And we do wake up. So that is going to put us in business here, as we now have the ability to attack after he did no damage to us. So what a stroke of luck going on in there. We've got 7 Night Marchers in our discard pile, and we can simply attach a double colorless energy here. And see what other kind of options we've got available to us. And our opponent's just going to scoop right there, because he has no energy on his bench, and we can take control from there. So our opponent forfeits, and so we get the win despite a slow start. Night March comes through and has... So, of course, if he doesn't forfeit there, we probably just start attacking, and we've got another Joltik ready on our bench. We can use Teammates to grab Puzzle of Time and get more of our cards back, our double colorless energies and our attackers, and we also, I believe, had a Pumpkaboo in the prizes. So that would have given us yet another attacker. So definitely a lot of ways we could have gone about, especially with Pokemon EX yielding 2 prizes instead of 1. So we're going to do one more game here, just to see if we can't get something going. Maybe we can get a full game. So let's see what we run into. And it looks like a fighting type deck. So, pure fighting deck and, oh, Mega Charizard coin. That's cool. And so we're going to win the coin flip this time, so that means we're finally going to get to play first. So we're going to go ahead and draw our cards. So we open with a Lone Joltik. Our opponent does not have a basic Pokemon in his or her hand. So we can go ahead and put Joltik in the active spot. And so we're going to look at what our opponent's got here. So verify no basic Pokemon. So we see Bridget, Training Center, Gabite, Garchomp, and Rare Candy. So Garchomp is kind of a nifty Stage 2 Pokemon. But we're going to go ahead. Garchomp, of course, our opponent will need to evolve them in order to start attacking us. And another hand with no basic Pokemon. So we see that our opponent runs Skyla, Professor's Letter, Puzzle of Time, Muscle Band, so all kinds of stuff there. That is an advantage to when your opponent draws a mulligan with no basic Pokemon. You do get to see their hands. You can kind of see what they're playing. And you also get to draw an additional card each time that happens. So we're going to get 2 free cards here. So now, since we're going first, we can just bench Pumpkaboo on our turn, so there's no need to put it down right now. So we're going to go ahead, let's see, we're going to play an Acrobike, and that's going to get us a Battle Compressor, big first turn card for a Night March deck. So we can play Battle Compressor here, and discard 3 Lampents directly out of our deck, since we already have a supporter available. So 1, 2, and 3, we can kind of go through here, see if the 4th one, what else we got, okay. Just going to go through, see what maybe is prized. And we're going to go ahead and play this next Acrobike. And that's going to get us a double colorless energy. Can't complain about that. So because we have 2 double colorless now, we can actually wait a turn to play our Professor Sycamore so that we can get the most out of both copies of double colorless energy here. We can play Puzzle of Time to rearrange our top 3, set up our draw for next turn. Let's see, Trainer's Mail seems like a pretty good bet, so we're just going to, the other 2, not really too big a deal there, since we're going to be drawing just the 1 and then likely playing Professor Sycamore after Trainer's Mail. So we're gonna, since we can't attack, we're gonna attach to our benched Pumpkaboo. And we're gonna, just in case something happens and our active Joltik gets knocked out, we'll go ahead and pass our turn. We've got another energy for next turn that we can attach to Joltik. So our opponent is going to take his turn, and we know that Gible cannot evolve on the first turn. So we see our opponent attach energy to his bench Pokemon as well. We see our opponent play a Skyla. Search deck for one trainer card. So he's going to grab Karina, another supporter card for next turn, and simply pass. So we're going to get lots of options here. We're going to get as the opportunity to attack. We're going to play a Trainer's Mail, and I don't really think we need either one of those right now. We can just go ahead and play the Dimension Valley that's in our hand, and we can go ahead and attach an energy here. Now, right now, Gible does not have a lot of HP, but when it evolves into Garchomp, it will have significantly more. So we're not going to bother benching this Pumpkaboo. We're just going to throw it away and power up our attack. Definitely a decision to make there. Get some more battle compressors, so we can definitely take advantage of those. Let's go ahead and discard some more Night Marchers. Unfortunately, we did draw our fourth Lampent, so we're going to have to discard some other stuff. So 2 Joltiks and a Pumpkaboo can go into our discard pile. And then we can play an Ultra Ball here, which can put another, discard the Lampent as well as the last Battle Compressor, and we can go ahead and bring Shaymin to the forefront. Now you may notice we have Fighting Fury Belt here as well, but I think we're just going to hold on to these for now and just play it into our next turn. Night March is doing more than enough damage now. 160 damage, so we'll knock out the Gible and claim our first prize card, and that is another Shaymin-EX. So maybe we should have held the Ultra Ball, but we've got 8 Night March Pokemon in our discard pile right now, so we're knocking out quite a bit of stuff. So we're going to see Karina for Garchomp, and so we're probably going to see Rare Candy here, whether he searches for it or maybe already has it in hand. So he will search for the Rare Candy, so he can play that to skip the Gabite stage and go directly into Garchomp, which will give him a pretty formidable attacker. So we're going to see Garchomp come out. And next we're going to see an Ultra Ball, discarding Gabite and Skyla, it looks like. So we're going to see another basic Pokemon so that he doesn't simply run out of Pokemon. And that is a Lucario-EX, so that is a big-bodied Pokemon, 180 HP, but it does give up 2 prize cards as it is a Pokemon EX. So 160 damage that we end up taking from our attack, from the attack from Garchomp here because of our weakness. But it is only 1 prize card that we are giving up, and Pumpkaboo has Fighting-type resistance to boot. So we're going to add Fighting Fury Belt on top of that. And let's see here, we can go ahead and play Shaymin-EX to draw 2 cards from our deck. See if we can't hit a supporter card here, and we can't, so we're going to play Puzzle of Time and try to see if, oh geez, talk about junk. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just take the puzzle there. We don't really need all of that. And then we're going to play another one of these things down. And then we're going to go ahead and actually hold this Psychic Energy in our hand in case he plays like a Lysander or something, so we can attach and retreat. We can play our Hex Maniac here, shut down abilities until the end of our opponent's turn, and then we can use Night March to deal, looks like it'll be 190 damage, 180 off of 9 Night Marchers in our discard pile, plus an additional 10 damage from Fighting Fury Belt. And so he brings up Lucario-EX now. And that Fighting Fury Belt grants us 40 extra HP. So our Pumpkaboo has 100 hit points right now. So it's going to be pretty difficult for him to take out in one attack. So we'll see if we'll see what Lucario does here. It's really all we've got is Shaymins right now for backup, but we did draw a Pumpkaboo off of the prize cards. So if we can get our hands on another double colorless, or maybe even another Psychic Energy, we can begin to charge up this Pumpkaboo. So we're going to see a Puzzle of Time on our opponent's end. We're going to see if he plays 2 copies or just 1. So he will play 2 copies, getting Ultra Ball and Garchomp out of his discard pile. So we'll see what he plays here. We're going to see Ultra Ball discarding 2 Garchomps to get a Gible onto his bench. So we're going to see Gible go down, and that last card is Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick, which is going to let him put a Garchomp directly from his discard pile onto his bench and then draw 5 additional cards. So that's a pretty solid play right there, and that's going to give him some Pokemon to toy with here, as we've got 4 of our 8 attackers already in our discard pile, but Puzzle of Time fortunately can help us there. Looks like we've used up 2 of our puzzles, so it is important that we do not play this third one here. But our opponent attaches and passes his turn, so we can put another Pumpkaboo down, and we're going to go ahead and attach an energy to it and play. Let's see here, it looks like we're going to have to play Dimension Valley to knock Fighting Stadium out, and then we're going to use Night March here, and that's going to do a lot of damage. 380, how about that? And we get 2 prizes for knocking out an EX, and we hit VS Seeker and Teammates. I don't think we could have done much better than that. So, if we get knocked out, simply put, Teammates will allow us to pull any 2 cards from our decks, like say the second Puzzle of Time and a double colorless energy. Look like a pretty solid play here. Our opponent's going to play Karina, so we're going to see a Gibble, and let's see what the second one is. It looks like a Puzzle of Time. Okay, so maybe he already has a Puzzle of Time in hand. So Gibble is going to see the board. And we are going to see a Puzzle of Time play here. So if he has another one, we could either see Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick again, or we could see Rare Candy into Garchomp. He could grab a Gabite here and then play Maxie. He could get a Gabite, a Garchomp, and then 5 new cards, which seems like a pretty darn strong play to me. But since he played Karina, it would have to be next turn, so it's interesting to see what he's going to do here. So we are going to see Maxie's and a Gibble come out of his discard pile. So we're going to see Gibble go down onto his bench. And then we're going to see Turbo Assault, which is going to do only 40 damage because of our resistance. And we also have Fighting Fury Belt, so our Pumpkaboo has 100 hit points, mind you. So he's going to accelerate a strong energy from his discard pile onto a benched Gibble through Turbo Assault, which lets him attach any energy from his discard pile to one of his benched Pokemon. Pretty good attack. So we can just kind of stand back here, and let's see, we're going to override his Stadium card with a Dimension Valley and simply use Night March for another knockout, and that's going to put us within 1 prize of victory here. So we're going to get a Psychic Energy off the prizes, so with our Stadium card we can simply attach this Psychic Energy onto Pumpkaboo, and that will grant us an attack and would likely grant us the win then, with 1 prize remaining. And so our opponent realizes that, and he just goes ahead and forfeits the game. So that is Night March, and just kind of a basic, very generic beginner's build. You can also find the tournament topping lists all over the internet, Pokemon.com. You can find them on Facebook through Burbank City. A lot of people have thrown lists online. You can find a lot more tournament level lists on here as well. This is just a very generic beginner's list just to kind of help you get the hang of the deck, understanding it. And that is our first segment of Deck Building for Dummies. Put your comments down below. Let me know how you liked it. Just another way to help out new players and just kind of get the hang of deck building, as it really can be an art. And so right now that's what we've got for Night March, and I'm Heretic, so I will see you guys hopefully very soon. Cheers.